So 3 John 2 says it the best. Beloved, above all things, I wish that thou mayest prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Now we know that when we have a child, and we take that child, we want it to prosper. As a matter of fact, we take measurements on that child in different parameters to make sure it's growing properly, that the whole being is developing in the way it should, that everything is normal and it is excellent. Well, so prosperity isn't just talking about money or I'm doing well. And it's funny that in that same verse that it equilibrates prospering in your soul, which is your mind, will, intellect, and your emotion, and it compares it to good health, even as your soul prospers. Once you're in good health, but it's even as your soul prospers. What does that mean? Listen to me. It means get your head right and your health will be right. Tonight's all about getting your head right. Now, most people think that good health is living just below the symptom line. I don't have any symptoms, I feel good, so I'm healthy. That is not health. That's what we call subthreshold. What is threshold? Threshold is how you live your life, and you're living in this little space like this. So anytime you pass threshold, you're sick. You have pain. You have something wrong. You have a symptom. So most people live about right here. And they sleep wrong on their pillow. Oh, I'm in pain. They eat the wrong thing. Oh, now I'm just stomachache. I'm just feeling so terrible. Anything that they do, just any little thing comes along. Little bug comes around, they're sniffing and they're coughing, right? So we don't want to live here. We want to open up the threshold. We want to live here. So we can eat something wrong, sleep on a pillow wrong, have somebody coughing on us, and we're still not to the threshold line. Now, to me, I call that extreme health. Extreme health is you live healthy. You don't wait till you get sick and treat it. Extreme health is, to me, as you get older, you get better. People look at me and say, what are you talking about? I can tell you right now, I am training harder and more efficiently than I did 10 years ago. Is that even possible? Yes, it's possible. If you don't believe me, any of you are welcome to come train with me. As a matter of fact, very soon, I'm going to have a night, and anybody wants to come train, we're going to show you how to do that. Why? Because there is a right way and there's a wrong way. Now, you can do it a million ways and you can get results, and they're all good. I'm going to show you the way neurologically to cooperate with your body so you get the most bang for your buck. And so you walk around like me. I don't hurt anywhere most all of the time. Matter of fact, if I feel something in my body, I'm like, why am I feeling that? Are you supposed to feel stuff in your body? Is anybody thinking about your pinky right now? No, slam it in a car door. If something's wrong, you'll think about it, right? So really, you shouldn't notice your body. That's extreme health. When you wake up in the morning, you should be energized. You should come up like, my wife will tell you, I get on her nerves. When I come out of the bed in the morning, I'm like that Dow commercial. Aren't you glad? I mean, do we have any of those out there? At night, I hate to have to, it's time to sleep. Now I have to go to sleep, and I'm going to miss something. I hate to have to go to bed. I'm like the proverbial kid that doesn't want to go to sleep. But all I have to do is get still in my chair. How many of those we got out there? See, that's good. When you're up, you should be up. When you're down, you should be down. Now, you have some people that are in the middle. They're going through their day, and they have good moment, and they're about out on their feet. Good moment, they're out on their feet. How many of those we got out there? Yeah, most of you, right? And then you go to sleep at night, and boy, you have no trouble getting to sleep, but you have trouble staying asleep. And you wake up, and you're staring at the ceiling with the big eyes. How many of those do we have out there? So we're going to be talking about all of the things that help you to walk away from all of those things. How many people would testify and say, yeah, I have pain in my body at least once a day? Look around. How many people would like to get rid of that? Pay attention. So we're going to start with the smallest component of the human body, and that is the cell. Everyone in here started with one cell. That one cell then turned into over 100 trillion cells. It didn't need any outside help or any intervention. It just knew how to do it with the innate intelligence that God put inside of its body. And the nose knew how to show up here, the eyes knew how to show up here, the ears know how to show. So the body has an internal wisdom. And the body knows better than you do. So sometimes we have to learn, number one, how do you listen to your body? Because your body will tell you a lot of things. Now the hard part is you can train your body to like and do things that it doesn't need to be doing. And it'll talk to you about that too. So you have to know when your body's telling you the truth and when it's not. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, you got to decide what it wants or what it needs. And the only way you can do that is through knowledge. So we're going to help you. 3 basic things you need to keep a cell alive. Doesn't change. Everybody's the same. Doesn't matter what your culture is. Doesn't matter what your age is. It's the same. Feed. You have to feed a cell. Has to eat. Has to be nourished. You cleanse it. It's got to be cleansed because it has byproducts. After people eat food, don't you have to defecate? Don't you have to get rid of the garbage? So does your cell. So you feed it, you cleanse it, and what? You have to protect it. Because if it's not an environment where it's protected, then your cells will be destroyed. Now, what is disease? Disease or sickness is any time at any place in the body where the cells are dying. The cells are dying in the liver, we call it liver disease. I mean, we can make this real hard or we can make it real simple. How many people like it simple? So you say, oh, somebody's got kidney disease. You've got a lot of dead cells in your kidney. They're dying. I've got this disease, that disease. Then wherever it is, now we give special names like collagen tissues. We'll call, oh, that's lupus. And we can call it what you want and the reasons why, but at the end of the day, the cells are dying. So what we want to do is stop cells from dying. Now there's different stages and different signs and warnings that your body gives out before the cells start going into massive death, disease. And these warning signs are what we need to pay attention to, because if you don't listen to them, you're going to push through them or take things to cover them up. How many people, when you're driving down the road in your car, if your oil light comes on, how many of you take some black tape out of your toolbox and put it over? I promise you, if you do that, that light won't bother you anymore. But is that really the wisest thing to do? How many people like Advil and Tylenol and acetaminophen? Are you listening to me? So every time, how many people here have had a headache? And what do? Take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning. So what does the aspirin do? It's a salicylate. What does it do? It covers the symptom. What is the other? So why do I say that? Because I promise you, if you have pain somewhere your body is crying out for something. It needs something, or something's happening to it that it doesn't want to happen. So it's speaking to you. It's talking to you, trying to get your attention. And so the reason this is going to be a real revelation for a lot of you, but the reason why you have the headache is not because your body is low on Tylenol. Nobody here has an Advil deficiency. But I can tell you this, watch this. If you don't drink water, it's going to be a hard one, Mr. Brady. It's going to be a hard one. You don't drink water, okay? You start getting a little weak. Don't drink water. Just keep pushing it. Keep pushing it. Pretty soon, man, you're starting to feel dizzy. You're starting to feel lethargic. Your mouth starts getting dry. Your eyes start, hurting. You start getting headaches. Your back starts hurting. Your kidneys start aching. Because, they need to be flushed, and they're not, so the toxins are building up in your body, and you start going down. So you start having pains in your body, you're lethargic, and to the point where you will literally not be able to walk. Now watch this. Please don't take this the wrong way, but you can bring the prayers in and lay hands on him and anoint him with oil. Hallelujah. Get a little jerk going. As soon as you leave the room, he's still going to be lethargic, and he's still... Why? Because that wasn't a prayer issue. We got to draw these lines, guys. Everything isn't solved by prayer. I know you didn't want to hear that, but it's not. Sometimes you got to drink water. Now, you can take pills. You can cover up the symptoms. Oh, your back hurts? Oh, here, let's take some ibuprofen. And it might help the pain a little bit, but it dries him out further. Now what happens? Now he's worse off than when we started. So if you're covering up symptoms, what's happening underneath? Something's getting worse. So then cells are going to start to die, aren't they? You don't feed, cleanse, and protect, and part of feeding is watering, right? That's part of the nourishment. They start to die. So I don't care what you do, what medicine you give him, whatever you attempt to do, there's only one thing that's going to fix it. Why? Because he has a deficiency. So I need every medical mind in here, need all my geniuses to show up. How are we going to treat this, Mr. Brady? Water. God, that's too simple. You can't tell me that I could just drink water and all my pain would go away and all my energy would return and my cells would stop dying. Whether you believe me or not, all that would happen. Just from something as simple as a glass of water. See, the problem is every time we get something, it has to be something really bad. Oh, I was using the bathroom. I looked down and I saw blood. Oh, God. Oh, God. Game over, dude, man. I passed blood. You're getting your things in order. You're calling about life insurance policies. Because obviously you have, say it, C word, cancer. It has to be cancer. What if it's just an internal hemorrhoid? Which 95% of them, 98% of them are. They're bleeders. It's a vessel that's bleeding, and you'll bleed. Now, I will tell you, if you ever see blood in the toilet, you need to get it checked. Because you want to make sure it's a bleeder and it's not the. But our minds immediately want to go to the worst thing first. So sometimes things can be very simple, and they may appear extreme. Now, why am I taking this approach? Because you have to do the basics first. Feed, clean. People come to me all the time. Hey, doc, what can I take for this? You know, I've been having these shoulder issues. What can I take? They want a pill for every ill. You know, I'm putting on a little extra weight. If you got something I can take this weight off. I do. Called duct tape. I'm going to tape that mouth shut. Guarantee you'll lose weight. Guarantee. Now listen, guys, this is a tough subject, and so I got to lighten it up a little bit. But I have to tell truth. I have to tell truth. You don't take pills to lose weight. You modify eating. Are we okay there? So how are we going to modify eating? Can I just go ahead and dive in now? I've laid some of the groundwork on how we're thinking, how we're approaching. Now let's start wading into the how-tos and what-to-dos, okay? So the first thing, I make this the easiest thing in the world. We can make it as hard as you want, or we can make it easy. When you walk in the grocery store, shop in the outside aisles. Remember? I've taught you, shop in the outside aisles. You'll go, there's all your all your meats. There's all your vegetables. Everything you need that's whole food is around the outside. Once you go down the middle, it's all that stuff put together with chemicals and sugars and artificial this and artificial that. And when you go down that aisle, you're asking for trouble. And it's tempting, isn't it? Because you go there and say, well, I'm going to go down to the store and get some meat and vegetables. You're walking around. You just can't stand it. You have to look down. You know what's down that aisle. Why are you looking? It says it right there. Cookies, crackers, but you got to look. So what you do, you thought, well, that's probably the shortest route to the meat department. And you know you're going somewhere. You shouldn't be going, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You know where you're going. You know what you're doing. And you know what's down there. And sure enough, you look over and there's your sweet thing. You can't help it. You're like a zombie. And the next thing you know what happens. You don't get one because they're two for. BOGO, baby! Buy one, get one free. Then you do your little happy dance in the aisle. I don't care how bad your day, now you're smiling. But I got my meat and I got my veggies. But I also got my Oreos and my stage planks. Yeah. If you eat whole foods, have you ever seen like a potato chip laying there? And have you ever seen a potato when you cut it, it's juicy and it smells? They don't look the same. But I know you think you're getting, when you eat that bag of potato chips, you think, well, I'm getting my vegetables. You got a point, it is a potato. I'm not going to fight you on this. But it's to the point where you're eating dust. You know, there's a difference between a live person and a corpse. So there's a difference between a potato and a potato chip. And in that potato, there's life. And there's some things we can measure, something, but there's a life force in that food because it's still alive, right? Greens, they're alive. You snap them, and you smell them, the aroma. They're alive still. And when you eat live, then you are livelier. I came so you may have life and have it more abundance. Let's go ahead and go. I teach us, you got to learn it. The John 10:10 scale, hold up your hands. The thief come not for to left, steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come to bring life and life more abundantly. Before you put anything in your mouth, you set it on the scale. If it goes to this side, just say no. Push it away. Don't eat it. And you know exactly what food those are. You have to guard the gate. Okay? Y'all are already mad at me. We just got started. You're like, man, I just got 3 for 1. God. You're not going to like what I'm saying. But when you go home after this, you need to go to your food pantries while you still got some sense. Because they will talk. I'm telling you, if you leave them in there, you won't last 3 days. Peter, you will deny me 3 times before the cock crows. You may not even make it till the cock crows. You hear what I'm saying? And you'll be in there, and you'll say, no, you'll be in there speaking in tongues. 5 minutes later, why? Because these dry, dusty foods, when they convert, you take a complex carb like a potato, which is balanced. It means it has a protein and a carb on it, and you eat them together with a fat. It's a whole food. And when you eat it, it balances very slowly through the blood system. And it does very good, and the body likes that. When you take it and dry it into dust, all there is, it's the other white stuff. It's dust, like white flour. And when you eat it, it turns straight to sugar. So what's wrong with sugar? I don't know. Why don't you just give a half a bag to your kid before it's bedtime? And you tell me if it's good. His little head will be spinning around. I mean, how many people do not give their kids sweets before it's bedtime? Nobody's putting your hand up? That's why you're tired. I already fixed your fatigue problem. We haven't even got there yet. All these ADD problems, ADHD, 90% of them, you're stuffing them full of sugar. Sugar is, in my opinion, and I've said that my first book I wrote right here, I wrote the whole book on Healing by Design, 30 years ago wrote that. You know, nobody was talking about it back then. People thought I had a green horn sticking out of my head, but I still kept talking about it. I was known as the sugar guy On TV, that's all I talked about. Just kept hammering it. Now, everybody's keto. Let's quit eating sugar. Duh. Yeah, sugar is a toxin. It is one of the most, why do you think your body makes insulin? Because it has to grab that sugar and drive it into the muscle for fuel. Because if it floats around, anybody ever heard of a diabetic? It means you can't make enough insulin to match the sugar content, so it floats around and starts sticking on stuff. Sticks on the nerves in your back, then your feet won't work, and we call it diabetic neuropathies. Sticks on your eyes, you get retinopathies. We can do this all day. Till finally it'll help you clog up your vessels, and you die from a heart attack. How fun is that? Why? Because I couldn't put down the chips. Starts with a potato chip. Starts with a white flours and crackers, anything with sugar on it, sweets. Oh, listen to me if you don't hear anything else. It might just save your life. So here's the problem. So you eat this. How many people have heard of cocaine? Okay, it stimulates pleasure centers in your brain to a high level. So then the next time you want it even more, but you can't quite get the same high. Food does the same thing. In the Bible, God, right in the middle of a fornication chapter, it says meats for the belly and belly for meats. Why does it say that? Because appetite and sexual immorality trigger the same brain centers. It's an addictive cycle. It makes you want more and you can't put it down. And so you become addicted to the thing that you're craving. What do coke addicts crave? What do crack addicts crave? Crack. What do alcoholics crave? What do carboholics crave? Carbs. But see, they're legal. And you can bring them to church. And some of them will bring them to church for you and feed you at the door. Ah, you made me go there, didn't you? See, for years I wouldn't let sugar in that door. I've been just a little bit because I'm assuming everybody's doing everything else right. But how can I feel good about giving you a bag of donuts when I know if I keep doing it 10 years from now, I'm going to be preaching your funeral? I'm hard for a reason. I say hard things for a reason. Because somebody's got to get your attention, because diabetes is not going to take care of itself, but it will take care of you. And it's a real thing. And certain cultures are more predominantly, I don't know why, but maybe it's just the way the genetics work, but they're more prone to it than other cultures. So you actually have to take a little extra care. And if you'll listen to me, this is really not hard to do. It's just making up your mind. You just got to make up your mind. You could either put a real potato in your mouth or you can put a chip. And if you're a carboholic, you don't even need to eat a potato. Just stay away from starches altogether. Forever? No. Just until you beat the addiction. Minimum of 16 weeks. That's how long it takes to successfully, in most cases, beat an eating addiction to the point where it's not sabotaging your body. Did you understand that? Now, we're just talking something simple as sugar. If I can tell you right now, if everybody here took sugar out of their diet, how many people have fatigue? You suffer with fatigue. Come on, just go put your hands up. You feel tired through the day, and right? Let me put it this way. 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you're nodding off. Come on, tell the truth. Let me see your hands. I'm going to see it. Yeah. Yeah. If you would just quit sugar and start out your day with a protein, I don't care what protein you pick. Just pick a protein. Meat, egg, or cheese, I don't care. Just pick a protein. Pick a plant protein if you want. If you don't want to eat meats. And you stay away from sugar, you will no longer get the drop in the early afternoon. Gone. The sugar spike, gone. How much did that cost you? You have to go buy a supplement, don't have to buy a pill. Simple, gone. Energy levels start to restore, start to come back. Why? Because if you're burning sugar, then you're storing fat. Can't do both. They're both fuel. So when I take a sugar log and I put it into your body for fuel, it gives me 4 kilocalories of energy. When I take a fat log and I put it in the mitochondrial furnace, I get 9. Would you rather live on 4 units, or would you rather live on 9? How many people want 2.25 times more energy? Start burning fat. The problem is we keep eating sugar, so we're burning sugar, and the fat all gets stored. So now we're carrying all the fat logs around, using the little bit of energy that we get from the carbs. What if we force the body to go get the fat logs out of storage, and we got 2.25 times more energy? It'd be like plugging you into a wall socket, and then the logs start going away. You would have less load to bear. So what would your energy level do? You only have so much energy in the body. 77% goes to the sodium potassium pumps. That's just what keeps your cells moving, healthy, and alive. So you already don't have a lot of energy by the time it gets to brain, make your heart beat, make your liver functions, make your gut work. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have a whole lot in reserve. So how many people would like 2.25 times that? Do you think you could do more? Do you know why most people don't exercise? They don't feel like it. You don't feel like it. You get down to the gym, I'm going to walk on this treadmill. "500 feet. Well, you made it to the mailbox and back. You don't feel like it. Why? You don't have any energy. Listen, do not leave here tonight and run to the gym. Don't do it. You're setting yourself up for failure. Why would you do that? Let's clean up the dump first. Let's get the energy systems ready first. Let's get your body fired up. Then let's talk about exercise. I walk in a gym, I start training, I don't stop. I take everything down to full exhaustion for 1 hour, no breaks. I finish one body part, I move to the next body part. I take it to exhaustion. I go, how can I do it? Because I've learned how to make efficient fuel. That's how. So if we can do it in a gym setting, don't you think we can do it when you're walking around in your job? It's extreme health. It's not like everybody else around you. Do you want to be like everybody else around you? Go look at the health statistics. Top 3 killers today, still heart disease, cancer, and strokes. Nothing's changed. Except maybe some of the addictions now because of the fentanyl deaths and all that. But as far as the mainstream, it's still the same. Same as when I wrote the book. Do you know why I had to write this last book a few years ago? Because nobody was listening to this one. So now, because they stayed in a condition of inflammation, because when sugar floats around the body for 2 million periods of time, it puts a lot of nasty, nasty neurochemicals in the body. And what ends up happening, you start getting inflamed. Now, it's not all just sugar. There's a lot of chemicals in our environment. There's a lot of other things. We got filters in our body that they need to be maintained. There's a lot of things that go to it. But what ends up happening is your gut ends up taking a beating over a period of time. Why? Because every good bug hates sugar. Every bad bug loves it. So we have fertilized the bad bugs in our gut, the yeast, the fungus, the bad bacteria. And somebody with a stinky poo, Clostridium perfringens, the bad bacteria. Poo can smell a little bit, but it shouldn't run everybody out of the house. You might need to rethink it. If nobody wants to sit next to you at your cubicle. How many people ever seen kids? You ever seen kids doing that, picking them? Or they're going like this. You ever see that? Or you seen adults do it? Come by you on the carpet. You ever see you do? You know why they're doing that? They got parasites. Worms, little pinworms. And if they stay the night at each other's house, they climb across the sheets and they climb up into the other one. You're not bringing your friends over anymore. That's not happening. I'm just telling the truth, man. Do you know how they test for them? You know how we test for them? We take a piece of, it's called the Scotch tape test. Take a few Oreo crumbs and we stick them on a piece of Scotch tape and you put them there by the rectum and they come out at night to eat the cookies and they get stuck to the tape. That is a real test. I'm having all kind of thoughts I don't want to have. I just preached on this week to control my thoughts. Behave. It's like setting up a bug buffet. I don't know what we're doing. So then we have to treat parasites. We have to treat them for worms. Like you do a dog or anything else, you have to treat. Why? Because their guts have no immunity left because they're overrun, they're overridden because they have so many imbalances in their gut. And then, God forbid, when cold and flu season comes, as soon as somebody gets a sniffle, they go down to the doctor and take an antibiotic. Now, there's a time and a place for antibiotics, don't get me wrong, but you don't hand them out like candy. Most things are self-limiting and they'll run their course. Trust your body, let it build up an immune system. But no, we're taking antibiotics like they're candy, and they wipe out all the good bacteria, good and bad. Now, there's your gut. It's just like it took a nuclear bomb. And guess what? All the bad bugs thrive in that environment. Do you know how many people here, if I tested, you would be off the chart on yeast? Let me help you. How many of you, when you're sitting there, you just ate? 30 minutes later, you're craving something sweet. I'm just craving something sweet right now. I see it in your eyes. I have discernment. I can feel it. You're not craving it. Remember I told you it's the thing that lives within me, my sinful nature. What yeast is part of that. They'll make you crave. You remember many years ago, some of you maybe are not old enough, but because we relatively ate more whole foods back then, you know, when a kid was young, you'd see his ribs, and guys and girls, and little bellies were hard, right? You ever seen the kids today? They're walking on the beach and jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And it's not like they're fat. They're lean, but they're just jiggle, 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 jiggle. Yeast. Because everything they have has sugar in it. Everything they eat has sugar in it. And you're feeding your yeast. Your yeast love it. You guys some of y'all are too young to remember the movie Gremlins, but they were the sweetest little things until you gave them food. Remember the Gremlins? Yeah, that's yeast. They're supposed to be in your gut, and you're supposed to have some, and they're supposed to keep bacteria in balance, and they're supposed to balance each other, but when you feed them sugar, they transform, and they destroy everything inside, and they wreck the lining of your gut. So much so that it causes an inflammatory process. Now you have little hosters in there, and then you have little gates where the food is supposed to go through after it's absorbed, and it's supposed to go down a chain, and it's supposed to go out into your system so the body can get the nutrition. But it's hard to get through a slot when it's swollen. So you end up eating $10 worth of food and getting 10 cents worth of nutrition. But you get these physiological responses, and so you keep getting fatter because you're storing. Do you see? It's an awful thing. I ask people commonly, one of the first questions, how many bowel movements do you have a day? A day? You mean a week? Oh, I have 3 bowel movements a week. How many times you eat? Oh, 3-4 times a day. Do the math. Where's all that at? Gives a whole new meaning to you're full of it. Listen, when I hear those people, first thing I do is say, I'm going after that gut. I tell them, I'm going to clean you out. You're going to be so clean when I get through, you're going to swallow a grape, and it's going to squeak all the way from your mouth to your rectum. You got to clean it out. You got to clean yourself out. If you clean yourself out with fibers, we don't need enough fiber. Because we're taking all the fiber out of our foods because everything is concentrated. See, when you take sugar and you put it in a fiber, then it's slow to react. When you pull it out of the fiber, it's naked and it's just a quick energy and it's like cocaine. So when you put fiber in, what it does is it gets in there and it swells up. And it's like a big mop, and it just comes and rakes down the sides of the bowels, just rakes it. And it just pulls all the trash and the toxins and the poisons. But that's only one step. You still have to deal with the inflammation over time. Because if your gut's inflamed, your body's inflamed. You show me somebody with arthritis, 99% of the time I'll show you it's a gut issue. Because when foods get in there long enough and they start to irritate the gut, when the gut gets irritated, the immune system gets involved and says, we don't like that food, we don't like this food, we don't like that food. It's irritating. So it starts having an immune reaction. I run 96 food panels to see if people are IgA sensitive, to see if they're sensitive, they have antibodies to the foods. Because if you're eating something that you're sensitive to, it can blow you up and cause you problems, right? So I'm running 96 food panels, 75 foods that they're showing sensitivities to. You can't be sensitive and allergic to that many foods. So what does that mean? It means your gut's so inflamed, it's like a sunburn. Right now, I can pat that arm, I don't feel a thing. I can go out in the sun for 15 hours, and it's red and it's swollen, it's inflamed. And if I even just touch the hair, it's increased sensitivity, right? That's what a gut is like. So now foods that you shouldn't be sensitive to, now you're just hypersensitive. So you keep getting these immune reactions. Why is that bad? Because what's the first response for immunity? Does anybody know? Inflammation. If you sprain your ankle, what's the first thing happens? You get a bug bite, what's the first thing happens? You get a cut, what's the first thing happens? Everything swells. Inflammation. Histamine reactions. Are you listening to me? So when you start leaking, watch this, the gut gets so destructive, it starts leaking food stuff that's undigested out into the system. We call it leaky gut syndrome. I don't have time to go into that. I could break it down all the way down to the gate, but we don't have time. Just know that food gets out. Now what? Now you got food that doesn't even belong out there. You got foreign invaders all through the body. One of the first places it goes is to the joints. Arthritis, swollen joint. Right? How many people have been diagnosed with arthritis before? Yeah, arthritis. We found it. You went in there, you woke up one morning, your joint was swollen. Sometimes it's even a little fever. Hard to move, it's sore. You go to the doctor, you tell them what's wrong. They run $3,000 worth of tests. They come out, they go, we got it. Found it. What is it? It's arthritis. Didn't you kind of know that before you went? Didn't you know your joint was already swollen before you went? So you go pay the guy $400 to convert it into Latin for you? Are you listening to me? Who cares what it's called? You're inflamed. You're swollen. And we have to do things to fix the gut. So one of the first things we do is we cleanse the gut. And yeah, there's things you can take to do that if you have chronically abused yourself. Now, if you're not too bad and maybe you're doing pretty decent, just start eating more fiber-type foods, okay? Now, listen, it gets a little tricky because a lot of folks have sensitivities. Now, wheat is a big one. How many people have heard of gluten sensitivity? Do you even know what that is? Okay, so gluten is the content of wheat that really gives it value. That's where we base the money part of the wheat. Well, so if the money portion of the wheat is called the gluten, then think about it. What do you suppose the commerce people, the people who are making the money, would want to increase in the product to make it more expensive? Gluten. So now the foods are bio-designed, and by the time they have done their science and done their split genetics on now when they grow GMO, genetically modified food, now it has 10 times the gluten content that it did 50 years ago. Well, when you eat that, your body's not used to that. It's never seen that. It's foreign. It's a chemical now. And so people get gluten sensitivities and even gluten allergies. So here's what I tell you, because a lot of grains have cross-reactivities. Let me make it real simple for you. What do you feed? Everybody knows when you take a cow or a pig, you put it in a feeder pen for about 6 to 8 weeks, don't you? What do you feed it to fatten them up to put marble in the meat? Grains. Come on, farmers. We give them grains, don't we? Corns, wheat, sweet feed, grains. And what do they produce? Fat, marble. So what do we want to do? Every morning we want to load up with some grains. And we wonder why we can't lose weight. We want to eat chips, corn chips. And if they don't have corn grain or wheat flour, they're loaded with corn oil. Just look. Look at what we're putting into our body. Everything we're eating is designed to make us fat. Sugar causing us to store fat. We're eating foods that make us fat. And the sad part is we think it's healthy. So here's the tragedy. Don't raise your hand, but how many people eat cereal in the morning? Okay, so one of the biggest inflammatory things that I know in the market today is dairy products, especially our milks, because of the way they're pasteurized, flash pasteurized. I don't have time to go into all of it with the lactose and sensitivities, and I could be here all day doing that, but just know this, most dairies are very inflammatory, especially in the gut. So what do? We take grain, either corn or wheat or oats, and we fry it in oils. All your cereals are fried, by the way. Go look. Cocoa Puffs and Captain Crunch. Why is it crunching? Because it's fried. Then if it wasn't bad enough, you soak it in oil, you fry it, and it's already full of gluten. Then what do? You top it with sugar. There's more. Look how much. Look at the grams of sugar. There's more than a tablespoon. And then what do we do on top of it to dress it? Or on the milk, the dairy. And most of the kids, they have these lactose intolerance. They have these reactions to milk. When I was in graduate school, they showed this kid, and he was drawing, he's just the sweetest little kid, and he was drawing a nice little house with his crayon. And they gave him a glass of milk. He drank 4 or 5 swallows of the milk. They filmed him 15 minutes later, and he looked like Charles Manson. And he's breaking the camera. It was awful. He's breaking the crayons and tearing the paper up. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. So they gave him a shot to counteract the milk. 15 minutes later. So picture this. So then we take our kids and we give them sugar on top of gluten sensitivity, on top of fried oils, and we coat it with milk, and we send them to school. And we want to sit them in a desk and tell them, be good, baby. They're wanting to tear each other's heads off. You ever just talk to a kid, he can't even, he doesn't even know where he's at and what planet he's on. He's hyped up. Woo! You ever seen him do it? Yeah, every morning, right after you give them whatever your favorite sugar is. I'm not going to pick on cereals right now. So we can't spank them. We can't discipline them. Can't even send them to the principal's office. But we can drug them and it's okay. I'm not okay with that. So what I'm here to do is to get some attention And I say things very harsh on purpose because I just tell the truth, because we got to snap people into change. We got to stop this mess. It takes a little longer to maybe prepare some eggs or some decent food for the child in the morning. It takes a little extra time. It does. And by the way, if you get nice steel-cut oatmeal and you have a little bit of oatmeal, it's actually good for children. And a little bit of honey on that so they don't have to eat it nasty. Now, that doesn't mean slather it in honey. A little bit of honey to sweeten it, that's okay. That's good. So there are things we can do and that we can eat and we can help to feed to our kids that will stop the habits that led us to the health that we have. Now, what happens is, watch this. If you start taking care of your kids, guess who else gets taken care of? You do, because you're going to eat what's prepared for the whole family. So if you're going to do this, do it as a family. Everybody benefits. Hardest thing you can do is say, well, I'm going to go on a diet. What about your wife? Or the wife says, well, I'm going to do it, and she's over here trying to eat her food, you're trying to eat your food. Let's face it, you're setting yourself up for failure. Right? So I'm going for the very basics today. I could sit here and literally, I could start breaking down nutrient compounds. I could start running cycles for you, and I will give you a mental enema if you want. Or we can just start with some of the basics. Let's fix that first, and if you want part 2, I'll be glad to come back and teach it to you. But part 2 does no good till we do part 1. I can preach on sanctification all day long, but until you get saved, I'm wasting my time. So the first thing is, we're going to agree as a church that, hey, maybe we could do a little better. Maybe we can start looking at the labels a little bit. Just something as simple as that. Maybe we could clean our guts up a little bit. Sound like a good idea? Maybe, just maybe, we might get a couple books and read and get some good information. Just maybe. And I'm getting ready to close. But one of the easiest and one of the hardest things you'll ever do is to take control of your health. It's the one thing no one can do for you. You have to do it for yourself. So what I want to do, if you're okay, because we're doing the power hour, that's all the teaching I can do for now. Now, we're not done, because I'm going to answer any question you have, because I know some of you have individualized questions. But can we all just say this? Watch this. I call them in my book the big 3. Say it with me. Dairy, grains, and sugar. Dairy, grains, and sugar. Let's just, for maybe the next 8 to 10 weeks, let's just stay off of any of those kind of foods. Eat all the meat, the vegetables, all that. Eat all that you want. I'm not limiting anybody here on quantity. It's quality I'm looking for. And let's just be honest and tell me how you feel. Now, how many people are drinking other things, like you're drinking sodas, you're drinking sweet tea, because we live in the South? Real quickly, what's it been, Sammy, 30 years ago? Maybe 25 years ago, maybe, I did those blood tests. I brought my microscope over here, and I was sticking bloods, and I was showing them to everybody. I would put them up on the screen, and I was showing where their blood cells look like coins stacked up on top of each other. Some of it looked like Jell-O, and your body's trying to push Jell-O through their veins. And I think I did 125, and out of the 125, 117 were dehydrated. And I'd say, well, do you drink fluid? Yeah, I drink sweet tea. I drink about a gallon a day. Well, tea is a diuretic. There's your problem. Anybody drinking sodas? Diuretic. Half the things we're drinking, diuretics. How many people are drinking some good old-fashioned water? Ha, there we go. Some of y'all been in my class before? I like that. How simple, since your body is about 60, and arguably some people say up to 70% made of water, why don't we give it some water? What a great idea. So if you're giving it water, guess what it does all by itself, even without your help? It starts to cleanse itself. It starts cleansing those cells. And when cells start cleansing, they get healthy. When you start feeding it good nutrition, guess what the body does? It starts creating healthy cells, and the dying cells start being replaced with new cells, and the new cells are healthy. Wow. And then because we're eating vegetables now, and all those nice colored fruits and vegetables have antioxidants. It stops oxidation. Oxidation's internal rust. Stops you from rusting out. So you protect the cell. You're feeding, you're cleansing, you're protecting. Just from doing a few smart changes in your life, I'm telling you, in 8 to 10 weeks, you can be different people. In a year, all your cells replaced with new ones. You can be a brand new you in just 1 year. I don't care how old you are. People ask me all the time, how come you don't have gray hair? Because of the diet. Because I make sure I have good mineralization. Because I make sure I take supplementation. Does that make sense? Feed, cleanse, and protect. Step 1, we're going to do it through the diet. Everybody good? Everybody good? Is it something we can maybe get a hold of and think we can try that? Just for the next 6 to 8 weeks? Then we'll have another session, and I'm going to break it down further, and I'm going to go a little deeper. And I'm actually going to talk about different nutrients and what they do and why you need them and how you put them in. And most of you are just, what you're taking is so imbalanced, and the way you're doing it is actually causing harm. You don't even know it because you're eating handfuls of bags of stuff. Okay? Now, here's what I'm going to end with. Because people are always, I just want to save a million questions when you come to me at the end when I give you the mic. People say, well, what do I take? What do I do? I don't care if you can go on Amazon. You can buy anything you want. I'm just going to tell you what I have. If you want this, you can hook up the clinic, or you see Chaz here. He'll be glad to send it to you, whatever. We'll get orders. But my thing is, that's not what this is about. I'm going to show you what it is, and where you want to get it is irrelevant to me. But I spent my time targeting each one of these areas. This is called BioCleanse. What does this mean? It's the stuff I told you would clean the colon, because you have to cleanse it. And these are the herbs and the oils out of nature that do that naturally. Whether you want it to or not, you put it in, it just happens. The other one's called Colon Cleanse. That's the blend of fibers I talked about, soluble and insoluble, also with some bentonite clay and things that create an osmotic draw. So when it comes through, it just rakes all the toxins out and just sucks them in like a big sponge. Then we do BM Support, which is your bulking fiber. You have to have a bulking fiber because you have to have the big mop. Remember the mop I talked about? So you got one sucking them in, and then you got a mop that's going down and it's cleaning it out. When you put these three together, that is like just a nice clean out for the gut. Now, we always, in most cases, recommend a probiotic because of the world we're living in, and most of you have been on antibiotics and you haven't replenished the good bugs. Probiotic are the good bugs. The ones you killed, you got to put back. Those are 30 billion per capsule. I remember back when they had 4 million, Jesus was coming back. Now we got it to where there's 30 billion in one capsule. So if you're taking, and listen, when guts are wrecked, I tell you to take 1-3 times a day. But for most folks, you can just pack it at night before you go to bed, take your 8 to 10 of the BM Support, and in the morning, it's happy time. Yeah, just that simple. Quickly, very quickly, if you haven't seen all these on TBN, you might want to go watch the show that I did on TBN. The hardest part, what I tell you about the gut, you can't absorb the nutrients. Half of you have taken bags and pouches of vitamins, they're going right through. You just have expensive urine, expensive feces. They're not going into the system. So, it took me years to get it done, but we figured it out. How to get those down to the smallest component, which are called nanoparticles. A red blood cell, everybody knows what one is. You're looking at about 6.2 to 8.2 microns. Okay? 1 micron, if you take it 1,000 times smaller than 1 micron, that's a nanoparticle. And a red blood cell is 6 to 8 microns. So this is so much smaller than a cell that it goes right through membranes. So when you have swollen membranes, it just goes right through. You have people over 50 that have trouble digesting their food because they're not making as much hydrochloric acid, etc. Man, it's like fertilizer. Goes right to the cells. I can't tell you, Chaz would be here all day trying to tell you, all day we get compliments. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I was bedridden. I'm out of bed. Why? Because for the first time their body's getting the nutrition that they're taking. Simple. 16 squirts in your mouth, 1 time a day. Takes me about 30 seconds to get it done, and I'm good for the day. Now, me, because I train extreme, as soon as I get out of the gym, I do it again. Why? Because I just burn up all my nutrition. I need to put some more back, right? I don't know what your schedule's like. That's up to you. My point is, these are the nanonutrients that, remember, you guys know me here as pastor or bishop. The rest of the world knows me as doc. So this is what I do, and this is what I'm trying to do for the world, and we're making a big change right now. Now, I will tell you very soon, matter of fact, actually tomorrow, we'll be ordering been in the lab again, and we've made that even more efficient. Some people don't like the taste. If you don't like the taste, spray it in a little water. It's not as concentrated. You won't even taste it. But very soon, within about 8 to 12 weeks, they're going to taste like candy. Yeah. Am I right? Yeah. And they're actually going to be even more diverse. So you have some big, some smaller. No, they're all going to be the same size, more uniform and small, which means they're going to absorb even better. And that means we can even concentrate them more. And as technology improves, we'll continue to improve them. But the second wave is going to outdo the first wave. And I'm working on a new product right now, and I hope to have it out maybe within the year, because I'm tired of hearing about Alzheimer's. Remember, nanonutrients penetrate the blood-brain barrier because they're small. So I can drive things into the system. What is Alzheimer's? Chronic brain inflammation. It's a 30 to 40-year disease. What if we could block the inflammation in the brain? That's where we're going. I watched my mother die this way, and it's inspired me, but I refuse to watch anyone else die. So it's kind of a passion of mine now. So you have to stop it in the body first. That's what that does. I take mine every day. I am 60 years old, and any one of you want to challenge me to go play tennis, or you guys want to go out and run with me, you guys want to do anything you want to do, I'll go do it right alongside you, and I'll have the best time while I'm doing it. When I say challenging, I'm talking about competing. I'm talking about I enjoy it. Chaz and I do 3-hour boot camps at high pace of playing tennis. Chaz is 28 years old. He'll tell you, what do the guys say out there? They tell him I'm the best shape of all. I'm the oldest one out there. Why? You think it's because I just have some magic genetics? No, I've learned some things, and I practice the things that I've learned, and when I do them, they give me an edge. It's called one thing, extreme health. Next year, I'm going to release a book. It's called Extreme Health. And I'm going to break this down, and I'm going to take the average person. I'm going to show you how to get extreme. I'm going to show you how you can live older, live longer, and be stronger. Because you don't have to stay. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean your body does have to age, but it doesn't mean you have to get old. So I hope I've inspired you. I hope I've encouraged you. Now, real quick before we leave, if anybody has to leave, I'm releasing you now because the power hour is over, but I know many of you are going to have questions, and if you do, I'm going to stay here to make sure you get your questions answered. So anyone that needs to leave, needs to go, just don't hold. I won't hold us more than about 5 or 10 minutes here anyway doing questions because I want to get everybody home in time for school tomorrow, okay? But for anybody, does anybody here have any questions? If there is, somebody want to hand him a mic? I think behind you there. Okay, stand up, say your name, and ask your question.
Hello, I am Indigo. My question would be if I have really low hemoglobin, and what is it that I can probably eat to pick
Okay, so
up?
she says she has low hemoglobin. So what is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is the nutrient in the blood that basically carries your oxygen. And we know that you have to have an iron molecule with that, or if you don't, it can't bind the heme. And if the heme isn't bound, it won't hold the oxygen, okay? So, excuse me. So things that are good just for building overall, obviously, I'm sure they've checked your iron. They should check a ferritin level, not total body iron is not going to do it. You have to have ferritin because you have to know what's bioactive, all right? Now, with that, assuming that that's normal, has anyone ever seen the green stuff in plants, the chlorophyll? Yeah. Start taking chlorophyll tablets, the green stuff in plants. drink as much green foods as you can. They've got green drinks. We have a green drink if you don't. And drink maybe a scoop in the morning and a scoop at night, because those chlorophylls help the body to stimulate the hemoglobin production, okay? Very simple done. And if you want to do it through just eating plants, a lot of green foods, that's good as well. Especially things like spinach.
I think for me,
Go ahead.
for me, I have a problem with constant bleeding on the monthly.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor told me that my body cannot produce enough of it by the time it come back again.
Yeah, and that could be, this is what makes this very hard, because you're an individualized case. If I could see your blood work, I'd tell you exactly what you need. It's very simple. So if you're a heavy bleeder, like many people are, my wife was for years, okay? You have to know how to deal with that. First of all, if you're a heavy bleeder, your hormones, something's not right. And sometimes we have to add a little progesterone cream, or we have to have something to kind of knock that back a little bit. Sometimes, most of the time, it's because of poor assimilation of nutrients. And if you'll do the things that I'm telling you about, you're going to notice your bleeding is going to improve. It won't keep doing that. And yes, if you are a bleeder, you better be on some iron supplement, and you better be on the right kind so it doesn't constipate you.
And that's what I was going to say. That was
Yeah,
my next question.
yeah. I beat you to the punchline, didn't I? Yeah.
Last question, and then I go.
No, go ahead.
Let somebody else. Ovarian fibroids. How do you stop them from coming back?
Yeah. So and this is a common, people having fibroids, and listen, you heard me talk about sugar. There's something called an insulin receptor, and an insulin receptor is what says, okay, I'm getting resistive. I don't want any more sugar, so it starts resisting, and it won't let the insulin tries to grab the sugar and bring it in, but it's like, no, I don't want any more sugar. I don't want any more sugar. So you become insulin resistant, right? We've heard this big talk now on TV all the time. All right. Well, there are parts of your body that don't have insulin receptors, especially like women's ovaries, kidneys. So we'll start to see fibrotic changes in those areas. We'll see tumors, like little tiny tumors, and they start forming because why? There's no receptor to say no, so it's driving sugar into places that sugar shouldn't be, and it just starts growing out of proportion. So when you stop that destructive eating, what do you suppose happens to those fibroids? Yeah. Now, are there things like borage oil and evening primrose oil? Yeah, you should be taking those too, and those will speed up that process. Okay? Good questions. Anybody else?
Right here.
Oh, over here. Go ahead.
I ain't got to introduce myself. Y'all know me. Hey, y'all.
AJ.
Listen, I'm glad you brought up the subject about fluids. Now, I don't drink sodas no more. Kind of let that go. My biggest struggle is with tea. I do struggle with tea. But what about Gatorades and Powerades and stuff like that?
About what?
I drink water daily.
Yeah, you got to watch it, because when you look at Gatorade, it has as much sugar as a soda. Just because it's an electrolyte drink doesn't mean that it's necessarily healthy for you. Now, I don't like artificial sweeteners, but it's a trade-off. Like for me, I have to have electrolytes when I play. I have to, or I would go into full dehydration, and we couldn't play out in 100-degree weather for 3 hours. You just couldn't do it. So I'll use something like Sam's has something called Prime. That's just ones I like. You can get liquid IVs, whatever. But if you get the ones without you just want the electrolytes. Sometimes I have a little bit of sucralose. Not my favorite, but I'll tell you right now, it's a big trade-off, because if you are dehydrated, it's far more destructive than the little bit of sucralose that's in those packets. For you, someone like you, AJ, I would highly recommend them. You know why? They taste amazing. They're at Sam's. They're like $20. They're called Prime. You just take a bottle of water, and they're fruit. They're like strawberry. They're delicious. I've just recently found those, and I really like those. And so they're very inexpensive if you want to get them. And if you're drinking electrolytes, I will tell you this. Remember the other night when we were talking about depression and those kinds of things? Well, one of the biggest things is adrenal dysfunction. When you don't have energy, your adrenal glands are just pooped. They're just tired, okay? So B vitamins, we know, help them, and that'll give short-term stimulation, but it doesn't fix the problem. You cannot stabilize an adrenal gland unless you have electrolytes. So electrolytes is the first thing. So when it gives you more energy, guess what you want to do? You want to be more active. And when you're more active, guess what it does? Helps you burn more fat. When you burn more fat, what do you have? More energy. See the cycle? Then all of a sudden, everything starts to come in. So adrenals are huge. And if you don't have enough energy, one of the first places to suffer is your brain. And so it's really not depression, it's suppression. Remember, suppression, oppression, and depression in my first book. I use those three terms because they all mimic the same thing, clinical depression. But they're not clinical depression, they're suppression or oppression. So oppression is being weighed down with the cares of life. You know if you're stressed out. But a lot of you aren't stressed out. That's not why you're depressed. You're suppressed. Your adrenals are shot. You've worn out your system with sugar and you're inflamed. Your brain's inflamed. When your brain gets inflamed, you have bad thoughts. You have morbid thinking. You have gating mechanism issues. In the amygdala areas of your brain start leaking out bad brain and you can't hold back those horrible thoughts. How many people have nightmares? Don't even raise your hand. I know you're having them, especially if you're depressed. So you have to shut down those bad areas of brain. How do you do that? By fortifying the body's energy systems, recovering the mitochondrial systems. Nano, oh my gosh, one of the quickest ways to do that. Talk about replenishing a system. Oh, the nanos are amazing. Good question. Yes. You have a mic?
Yes.
Oh, we're over here. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I wasn't blowing you off. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Dwayne, now, besides what I know, what can I do to bring down my LDL?
Okay, so here's a question, and I get asked this a lot, because we're taught that there's HDLs and LDLs for cholesterol, right? High density lipids, low density lipids, and your highs are high and your lows should be low, right? But that's not true. There are good HDLs and there's bad HDLs. There's good LDLs and there's bad LDLs. So my first question to you is, I don't know which LDLs are bad. Are your good ones elevated? Because if your good ones are elevated, I don't want to drop them. Now, what does that mean? It goes by particle size. There's something called a VAP or a fractionation where we run fractionated tests, and it breaks those out so you know which ones we're talking about. Now, what happens is if those nice big floaters that go through and swab the vessels, those are your good LDLs, we want those. They go through and they're very healing and they're lubricating for the vessels. But what happens is they get oxidized and they get smaller particles, get like billiard balls. Now those LDLs are slamming through it. When blood moving around, you're like 200 miles an hour, and it's slamming into the intersections of the blood vessels, and it keeps damaging them. Then it causes a repair, a macrophage goes in, then it creates a fatty streak, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, your vessels are squeezing together, and you have atherosclerosis, excuse me. See what I'm saying? So I don't know if you have big ones or you have little ones. So a simple fractionation test is all you have to do to ask your doctor to be able to run for you, and then we'll know. It used to be called a VAP, but now they call it fractionation. Okay? And then the answer is simple, because then you would treat whichever ones you needed to. Okay? And they're not the same treatment. That's why I just can't throw something out there. I will tell you this. What I taught you today will improve all of your VAP. 100%. Will improve everything we talked about. Okay?
Okay, Dr. Hannen, to come off the carbs, when we did Biggest Loser, I got really, really sick.
Okay.
I remember everybody saying there was something you could take, but I never could find out what can help with the sickness, because I'm coming off all the carbs.
Okay. Did you hear what she said? She said she went straight keto. Meat, egg, and cheese, just cut out all carbs all at once. So there's something in the body called a Herxheimer, and when you're cleaning up so fast, you'll get sick, like literally like the flu, like symptoms. So you got to slow that down. Where do all the toxins store? Man, I got to do some more health classes. In the fat. They store in the fat. Your toxins store in the fat. So when you start burning fat in high content, where are those toxins going? If your filters are already clogged up and you start running toxins through them, we're going to have a backup. Houston, we got a problem. We call it, now you're going to feel sick. You got a Herxheimer reaction, right? So somebody like you, what I would do is I'd back it up, say, okay, let's clean that gut out a little bit. Give you a little bit to clean out the liver, the gallbladder, the kidney. Let's cleanse those organs a little bit. Start again. First of all, just come off sugar. Don't come off all the carbs. Let's run a few of those toxins through. Get your body used to the system, to burning fats again. Usually takes about 6-8 weeks. Then you just start creeping back until pretty soon you put yourself in mild ketosis. Not heavy ketosis, mild, where when you pee on that little stick, it's just a little bit blue or purple. Not into the deep purple, okay? That means you're still indicating you're still burning fats. And just hold it there for a while. Most of the time, that's all you'll have to do. And it just starts falling off. Just starts falling off. I've taken hundreds of pounds off people. Hundreds. Good question. Does that answer you? And you have to drink plenty of water. Yeah, through the whole thing. That will be necessary. Okay? Good question. Thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else? Again, I'm going to get your questions answered. Oh, back here. Yes?
Okay, so you were talking about electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I take pills for high blood pressure. And I guess I know it has a lot of sodium in it. What would be a good electrolyte to drink?
Okay, first of all, there's a little bit of a misnomer, because the reason why you have high blood pressure is not because you have high sodium. Okay? Usually, to me, if someone's drinking and soda's running their blood pressure up, you have a cortisol issue. Because cortisol will make you hold aldosterone. Aldosterone is what makes your body hold sodium. And so if it's wanting to hold the sodium, that's what's causing your issue. So somebody like you, I'd be thinking probably need potassium, because that offsets the effect of sodium. Also, I'd need to know what your cortisol problem is. So I'd be testing you to find out which part of your day that your stress cycle's messed up, because it is. I'm just telling you. So if you have blood pressure, it's in the back of the book here. I used to know exactly what page it's on, but I answer the top questions that are asked, and one of them is blood pressures. Because you can have blood pressure for a lot of different reasons. If your liver's clogged up, it's a filter. It's called portal hypertension. If your kidneys are clogged up, it's called renal hypertension. Okay? So it's something that's not working right can cause it. You can have autonomically induced, like what you're talking about. It's more of an autonomic issue, cortisol-driven, stress, holding sodium. It can be that. You can also have a psychological form of blood pressure, because you're stressed mentally. That's not the same. It's a little bit different, but it's still cortisol-driven. So I could sit here probably for the next half hour telling you the reasons why you can have high blood pressure. Now, standard of care is give a pill to push the pressure down. And I understand that in emergency settings, but what about long-term? Why are we not finding the problem? I'd rather make sure my filters are clear, find out the problem. Is it a potassium-based issue? Is it because potassium and magnesium follow each other in the cell? Is that our problem? Maybe we just have a deficiency. What if we treat that and then it fixes it? Okay, then we have our answer. If it doesn't, we have to keep digging. Does that make sense? Hope I answered your question there. So electrolytes are good, but you can't just, in your situation, you just can't say all electrolytes are equal, because if you're holding sodium, you can't give you sodium, can you? But sodium doesn't give people high blood pressure. A normal person, why would sodium give you? It doesn't. It doesn't give you, unless you take the wrong kind of sodium. Okay? Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How would you go about bringing down hemoglobin A1C?
Okay, so your A1C scores, hemoglobin A1C scores, we talked about insulin sensitivity, right? So the receptors are now sensitive because you're bombarding it. So there are things you can actually take in nature that help reduce that sensitivity. And one of them is, matter of fact, you've heard of resveratrol? Resveratrol helps to desensitize receptors. It does it in a very good way. It just happens to be in the influx there as well, okay? And anti-inflammatory herbs tend to do that, or anti-inflammatory compounds tend to do it, because it's compounds in the herbs that work naturally with the body to resensitize those receptors. So it's like if I go like this on my head, man, I feel that, sensitive. 2 days from now, I won't even feel that. Why? Because I'm resistant to it. I don't even feel it anymore. Well, that's what happens instantly. Your body just doesn't even respond to it anymore. Okay, that's not good. That means you're going to have free sugar floating around in the body. So we need to resensitize those. So resveratrol, there's there's a whole long list I could name that help sensitize the receptors. When you start taking those, what happens is it's like bringing the feeling back till you're sensitive again. So then it recognizes the insulin, and then those scores come down. Does that make sense for you? Okay.
Hi.
Yes.
My name's Donna. What can you do to reverse osteoporosis?
Okay, so osteoporosis is probably one of the most misunderstood disorders that I've ever seen. The first thing you always check, first thing with osteoporosis, is check your vitamin D levels. Now, don't just check what's called, you'll see it'll say D25. Now, it's a big old long word. I won't bore you with the word, but don't just check the 25. You have to check the D1, 25. Why? Because the D25 is just what's in the body. It's not active. Once it's converted into active vitamin D, it's D125. But the doctors don't check that. So you may have plenty of D, but it's like having a lot of cars in the parking lot with no keys. Nobody's going anywhere. So it has to be converting into D125. And then if you see that's low, now we know it's a conversion problem or it's a deficiency problem. We don't know. Because if it's a conversion problem, you can eat vitamin D till you're blue. It's not going to fix it. It's a conversion problem. Then we have to help the body to convert it. We take things like K2 and other things to help the body convert it and direct it. Okay? Now, that's number one. You have to check your vitamin D levels and make sure they're level. Okay? What are bones made of? No, they're not made of calcium, and that's what we're taught since we're little kids. They're not made from calcium. They're made from protein. Collagen protein specifically. But there's other proteins. Now, in that matrix, there's heavy calcium, and that's a hard portion of our bones. So you treat a bone like you do your collagen, like tissues, like your joints. Okay? So osteoporosis, here's the problem. They hit these little ping tests, right? The DEXA studies, and they ping the bones, and what comes back, if it doesn't bounce back, they go, oh, you're osteoporotic. It's absorbing into the bone because they're soft. So they'll give you a little medication to put an eggshell on the outside of it. So then it bounces back, and it makes the test look better. How many people, if I had this stage, and the stage was rotten right here, I could see it was rotten and it's soft, I could put an eggshell covering on it. Then I could ping it and it would come back. But what happens if I step on it? So is that really making any sense, or does it just make the score look better? No, we have to work the bones from the inside out. We have to form the collagen matrix back. We have to make sure our calcium levels are right. We have to make sure we have the right type of calcium. But if you don't have vitamin D, you can eat calcium till you're purple. Vitamin D grabs the calcium. K2 tells it where to go. So you have to have both. And it directs it into those bones. Now, last part of two parts of your equation, you have to make sure your estrogen levels are balanced. If your estrogen balances, in a woman especially, if your estrogen are not balanced, you're going to tend to be osteoporotic because those matrices will not form properly without the right level of estrogen. You have to do all these for osteoporosis. And final thing, there's something called Wolff's Law in the body. As you put pressure on bones, they form matrix. They form density. They get denser. So you have to do some kind of resistive exercise. Not walking, that's not resistive exercise. You need, I don't care if you just do air squats, like this. If you just want to get some bands, it doesn't take a lot, but you have to do some forms of resistive exercises to help drive all of these nutrients into that matrix during Wolff's Law, and fully reversible. Fully reversible. If you're osteopenic, it means you're just one step away from being porotic, by the way, if you've gotten that diagnosis. Go ahead.
Can you reverse chronic vascular disease?
Yeah, so can chronic vascular disease be reversed? In most cases, I believe most everything in the right case can be reversed. It depends what kind it is. So when you say vascular disease, that's a big word because I don't know which type it is. Most of them are inflammatory diseases. That's just location, but we don't know what type of vascular. You see what I'm saying? Most of them are caused from chronic inflammation. You just got talked to today about inflammation, and that whole book over there is designed, and I'm going to drill down by the time we're done with the health classes, you will know what inflammation is and you will know how to get rid of it. That much I will be assured of. But here's something that happens and you need to hear. Sometimes the vessels have a fibrous around it, like a water hose, okay, and it's supposed to be nice and pliable, like a balloon. But what happens over time, because of our diets and the way, that we have destructive lifestyles, things we put in our body, those become rigid and hard. So instead of being nice, like soft, hoses, they become rigid like pipes. And then what happens is they begin to narrow because they constrict and tighten down. That's not atherosclerosis, that's arterial sclerosis, where the actual muscle itself around there gets hardened. Those are tough. Can you do them? Yeah, but we have to do things like chelation therapies, magnesium therapies. There's different things we can do to help relax us, and we do those through IVs and supplementation long term. It's a much slower process, much harder, I'm just telling you, much harder to correct. But is it reversible? I believe in time, yes. Again, if you're willing to put the time and commitment in the diet. Any other questions? Oh, see one back there?
Oh, right here.
Oh, somebody over there? Who's? Oh,
Right here. Can you
I
talk-
can't see with these lights. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Oh, hey,
Can you
Jackie.
talk about intermittent fasting?
Say it again.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah, so intermittent fasting, I've probably lived this way for 30 years, long before it was popular. Basically, what you do is a clinical fast is anything, it ranges from 12 to 16 hours, just depending on what publication you want to read. So basically, don't eat anything after 6 o'clock at night, have your evening meal, and I don't eat until like 11 o'clock the next morning. All right? That's called an intermittent fast. Now, why is that important? Well, good Lord. I could be here for the next literally 2 hours telling you all of the benefits from intermittent fasting. It turns chemicals on. There's NF-kappa B, and I don't want to get into that's the most inflammatory thing that can be released. There's NRF2. NRF2 is what puts, if NF-kappa B sits on top of every cell, and once it's triggered, it just starts it's like Hulk. It just starts smashing the cells. NRF2 is a chemical the body makes that puts Hulk back in his cage. All right? So if you have chronic inflammation, when you intermittent fast, it dramatically increases NRF2. So Hulk gets put back in his cage at a very fast rate. What does that mean? You get rid of inflammation at a fast rate. Okay? Now, this might intrigue some of y'all more. Do you know what increases NRF2 the most? I put it in the book. Even more so than intermittent fasting? Intercessory prayer. Meditation and intercessory prayer. So that's just a little something to think about too. So when God tells you to pray continually. Yeah. Any more questions? I'll take one more. I'm going to let y'all out of here.
My name's Helen.
Hey, Helen.
Do you have a response for turmeric as the anti-inflammatory?
Yeah, so turmeric is the name of the herb. The curcuminoids are the compounds from the turmeric. And in the Influx, that's one of my choice that I use because curcuminoids are very powerful. They also are good. We talked about desensitizing the receptors. A lot of people have sensitized vitamin D receptors, just like insulin receptors. Well, it also helps resensitize the vitamin D and the A1C receptors, the insulin receptors. So curcuminoids are some of my favorites. They're not the most favorite, but they are certainly high on my priority list of anti-inflammatories if they're taken in the right concentration, the right way. A lot of them they're not absorbed. We put them into nanos, so we already fixed that problem. A lot of people will put things like piperine. If you buy them over the counter, you'll see piperine. That's from black pepper. Be careful, because out of all of the food studies that I run, do you know one of the number one things that most people are sensitive to? Black pepper. So you're putting it in an anti-inflammatory substance to help it absorb, and it's more inflammatory than the anti-inflammatory you're giving it. Yeah. Okay, guys, everybody stand to your feet. Did that help anybody tonight? Now, why is this talk so important? Because anybody that's facing bad diagnosis, disease, cancers, anything, everything I just talked about works towards the reversal of all of these disorders, if you will, and diseases. Why? Because it keeps cells alive. So what I'm trying to do is take you from just average health to extreme health. I hope this blesses everybody tonight. Can I just pray a blessing over before we leave? Father, I thank you for the wisdom and the knowledge that's been released tonight, and I pray most of all that it actually takes into fertile soil. Lord, I pray they'll take the gold that they've been taught tonight, and they'll take it and they'll apply it to their lives, so they'll have lasting change, lasting health, lasting perfect, because above all, Lord, I pray that they would prosper and be in good health as their soul prospers in Jesus' name. Bless everyone in this church. Amen, amen, amen. All right, God bless you, everyone. Again, if you have any questions, you're welcome to call the clinic. You can talk to Chaz down here. We're here to help you. God bless you, everyone. We'll see you on Sunday.